You're standing in a Costco checkout line on a Tuesday afternoon. There are two guys ahead of you, same age, around 52, same khaki shorts. One of them just stepped out of a leased BMW X5 with an $1,140 monthly payment. He's got a wrapped Apple Watch sitting in his cart. The other one drove here in a 2016 Ford F-150 with 140,000 miles and a door dent that he just never bothered to fix. One of these men has $1.2 million in index funds. Quick, which one is it? If you picked the BMW guy, you just made the exact same mistake as everyone else in that line, because the F-150 guy is the millionaire, and the BMW guy has $9,000 to his name and a car payment due on Friday. So, when people ask how the world treats you once you hit $1 million invested, the uncomfortable answer is, it mostly doesn't. Because this isn't really a video about how people treat millionaires. It's about why they can't, and about the one person who starts treating you completely differently the moment you cross that line. And today, we're going through the social stuff, the family awkwardness, and the psychology of hitting 7 figures. Let's get into it. Before we get into how people treat you, we need to be crystal clear about what $1 million invested actually means today, because the word millionaire is carrying around about 40 years of outdated branding. Let's start with how rare it is. Having $1 million in actual investable assets, not counting the house you live in, puts you roughly in the top 3% of American adults. So, statistically, yes, you are rare. You are the financial equivalent of being 6'4". But nobody at the grocery store is going to clap for you. Why? Because $1 million isn't what your brain thinks it is. Your mental image of a millionaire was installed sometime around 1990, but due to inflation, $1 million in 1990 is worth about $2.5 million today. Flip that around. Today's millionaire has the purchasing power of someone with about $390,000 back then. That was a very comfortable dentist, not a guy with a yacht, a dentist.
Americans instinctively know this. Surveys show people don't consider you wealthy until you hit about $2.3 million. $1 million just clears the bar for financially comfortable. And the millionaires themselves, roughly 2 out of 3 millionaires straight up do not consider themselves wealthy. They call themselves middle class. The guy who finally hits the number he's been chasing for 25 years looks at his Vanguard account, nods, and then drives his Toyota Camry to work the next morning. And by the way, 79% of American millionaires inherited exactly $0. The most common professions? Engineers, accountants, and teachers. It wasn't a trust fund, it was time, boring habits, and a flat-out refusal to lease the BMW. Here's where this gets genuinely interesting. The reason people don't treat you differently at $1 million is that human beings don't respond to wealth. They respond to signals of wealth. In 2011, researchers in the Netherlands ran experiments where the only variable was a logo on a shirt. Same person, same shirt, but one had a tiny designer logo on the chest and the other didn't. The results were almost embarrassing for humanity. The person with the logo was rated as higher status. People complied with their request more. They got better job evaluations. They even collected twice as much money when asking for charity donations. But here is the detail everyone skips. The logo did not make people rate them as kinder, more trustworthy, or more attractive, only richer. Strangers will let a rich-looking person cut the line, but they won't actually like them more. Your $1 million lives inside a brokerage account. It emits no signal. The waiter can't see it. Neither can the guy at the dealership. So every social interaction you have at $1 million is identical to the one you had at $50,000. So strangers can't treat you differently. Fine. But what about the people who know? What happens when you actually tell your friends and family? This is where the video stops being funny for a minute.
Let's look at Dave. Dave is a 51-year-old accountant. In March, his portfolio crosses $1 million for the first time after 23 years of quiet investing. He is so proud. So at Thanksgiving, after his second glass of wine, he tells his brother. Just his brother. By February, Dave gets a text. "Hey, quick question. Any chance you could float me $15K until summer? You're good for it, LOL." By April, his cousin is pitching him on a roofing business. By the next Thanksgiving, when Dave mentions his car needs repairs, his brother says in front of the whole table, "Oh please, you're loaded," and everyone laughs. Except it's not a joke. Dave didn't change. One sentence changed how every single person at that table calculates him. There is a documented psychological phenomenon called tall poppy syndrome. Researchers found that people actually report feeling more pleasure watching a high achiever fall back to average than watching an average person fail. We are weirdly wired to enjoy watching the successful get trimmed down. This is why self-made millionaires practice what the financial independence community calls stealth wealth. Look at the asymmetry here. Strangers treating you better requires signals you have to fake with logos and leases. People who know you treating you worse just requires the truth. The optimal move at $1 million is silence. But keep that silence in your back pocket, because there is exactly one room where staying quiet actually gets you treated better and gets you paid more. And it's at work. The mechanism here is sneaky. It's called walkaway money. The amount of money at which you no longer fear being fired. Using the 4% rule, $1 million invested can generate about $40,000 to $47,000 a year, basically forever. Your portfolio is now quietly a second household member earning half a median salary for doing nothing while you sleep. It doesn't ask for feedback, and it has no opinions on the office thermostat. Here is what that does to you at work. You stop laughing at jokes that aren't funny. You stop answering Slack messages at 9 p.m.
You flatly say no, that timeline doesn't work, without apologizing. You negotiate your raise like someone who can afford to hear no. And then something weird happens. People read all of that as competence. Your boss doesn't know about the portfolio. All your boss sees is a person who carries themselves like they have options. We instinctively defer to people with options. You get promoted. You get treated better. The money never entered the room. Your behavior did. Which brings us to the actual twist of this entire video. The person who treats you most differently at $1 million is you, and not always in cute ways. A psychologist at Berkeley ran a famous experiment using a rigged Monopoly game. They flipped a coin, and one player got twice the starting money, twice the salary for passing GO, and rolled 2 dice instead of 1. The game was openly, obviously rigged. Within 15 minutes, the rich players changed. They got louder. They smacked their pieces around the board. They ate way more pretzels from the shared snack bowl. And afterward, when asked why they won, they talked about their strategy and their skill at the rigged game. Feeling rich measurably shifts how entitled, confident, and self-credited people become. So if you cross $1 million and start noticing the world respecting you more, make sure you also notice whether you've started reaching deeper into the pretzel bowl. There is also a quieter cost. $1 million can be lonely. Because you practice stealth wealth, you are carrying a secret through every money conversation. Your friend complains about rent, and you have to nod along, basically doing improv. The wealth didn't isolate you. The secrecy did. But the secrecy was the rational choice. That's the trap. Is it worth it? Yes, absolutely. For years, people quoted a study saying happiness flatlines after making $75,000 a year. Newer, better research proves that is mostly wrong. Happiness actually keeps climbing with money well past $500,000. But what the money buys isn't stuff. It is the deletion of about 80% of your background anxiety. It's never doing mental math in the grocery line. It's the check engine light becoming an errand instead of a crisis. Nobody can see any of that from the outside, which is exactly why nobody treats you differently, and exactly why it doesn't matter. If the reward for $1 million were applause, you'd be at the mercy of an audience. But the reward is internal, which means nobody can take it, tax it, or borrow it at Thanksgiving. There's no trophy for hitting 7 figures. There's no parade. There's just a Tuesday where your F-150 needs new tires and you buy them without checking your bank app first. That's it. That's the whole prize. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed. Let me know down in the comments, if you hit $1 million tomorrow, who is the first person you would tell? Or would you stay completely silent? I read everything. Thanks for watching. Peace.